Hey,
Hi, everybody.
hey, everybody. Um,
Hey!
this is the first of the post-game discussions that Cosmic and Sparrow, and in the future, my daughter Jean and I are going to be doing whenever we close out a game. And this discussion, we're going to be talking about Monster Hunter Freedom Unite. So we got a little outline here of what we're going to try to, all the things we're going to try to cover. There will be timestamps and the little chapter things at the bottom of the video, so you guys can jump back and forth between what we're talking about, in case y'all don't want to watch this all in one sitting. So I guess to get us started, we'll start talking about where we started in the series.
Well, it was bad.
What?
Said it was bad. I was terrible.
Okay. Well, let's. So, Cosmic, since you said something first, how were you introduced to the series?
I mean, you guys just showed me the game that y'all played all the time, and I was like, man, that looks cool. I'd like to play with y'all. And then I did try World once, and I thought it was really complicated, so I didn't play it anymore. But once you got me set up on the, once you got me set up playing it with you guys on FU, it was pretty cool. I mean, I had to use a speed guide to get going. But
So we introduced, or I had told Cosmic about what we were playing back when we were still in low rank, I think. We hadn't been playing long, and then he waited basically until we were HR6 to decide, hey guys, I kind of want to play this game with you now. So he had to cover a lot of ground really quickly.
But I did, though. I used the speed guide from GameFAQs.
He did. I think it took about 2 months, maybe, to actually get to the level that we were with our
But
help.
I was still playing with y'all, helping you out.
Yeah.
Whenever we did the weekend streaming.
Yep. As soon as he got to high rank, we did start doing some high rank quests. And let's see, Sparrow, do you want to?
Well, I don't remember when we started, but I guess after I got tired of you bugging me is when I started playing. Basically, you're the one who just nagged us to play.
That is, yeah.
I mean, that's accurate.
That is completely accurate. That's how Monster
Yeah.
Hunter players get people to play with them. They just nag them until they do it. And after
yeah,
that,
I mean, I finally broke down. I'm like, fine, let's play this.
so I was a little different than these guys. I was, of course, as we've figured out at this point, I was the initiator of this whole thing. So my first interaction with Monster Hunter was when I was in high school. I took JROTC. Cosmic also took JROTC, and there were a lot of the guys in ROTC would actually bring their PSPs and play Monster Hunter Freedom, which is a game that was released before Freedom Unite, and they would play that in school. And they allowed me to play once or twice, and like, you know, I was younger. I think it was about 2007, so I was about 17 or so. And so that was the first time I had ever gotten an experience with Freedom Unite. And then once upon a time, I was doing a bunch of research to try to figure out what games I could play where I could fight, you know, dragons or monsters or things like that, because that's the kind of stuff I was trying to find. And every time I did, it always brought me back to Monster Hunter. So finally, because I'm one of these people that like to play games in order, before I understood that you really didn't need to do that with Monster Hunter so much. Like, you didn't have to play all of them in order. There are some that you don't have to play. You can skip some of them. I went and got the original Monster Hunter for PlayStation 2 and got my butt wrecked by a cut queue horribly. I tried so many different ways of beating it. I looked up guides, and I did everything I could to beat this darn cut queue. and nothing I did could ever get me past it. And again, this is the original Monster Hunter, and I'll go over some of the reasons why it was so difficult a little later. But I couldn't ever do it. Excuse me. And so I think we moved soon after from where we were, and then after a while the PlayStation stopped working, and so I didn't really have the ability to continue playing it. And then the game disc disappeared, and even now we have it somewhere here, but I can't find it anywhere. And so I just never got to really play it again. So then later on, a few years later, I got Freedom Unite and played for a couple hundred hours, not really knowing what I was doing. And I didn't. That was before I really decided, or before I found any Discord groups like we have now. And so I had no clue what I was doing, none whatsoever.
Could you beat a Kutku?
I did end up beating the Kutku, and I beat the Kutku eventually. And it still took a couple tries, but I beat him, and then I farmed him, and I wore his skin, and got clapped by Tigrex over and over and over again. I mean, I got killed by Tigrex so much I stopped playing it for a while before finally picking it back up. But then, so I spent like 200 hours not being, and I wasn't even able to get past Tigrex before we got back into this. And so a little bit later, Sparrow saw that I had gotten, or saw that, you know, I was real interested in that, and then she found the Monster Hunter World for sale at GameStop one time and got it for me. Sorry, that was a bug. I had to kill a Vespoid real quick. So she got it for me, and then I told her, I said, I'll play this, but like I want to play it with you. And so she doesn't remember any of this for some reason.
I don't remember any of this.
Sparrow and I played sequentially because we weren't able to play multiplayer at the time. We played sequentially all the way to the Rotten Vale. And that's basically when Sparrow stopped wanting to play because she didn't want to play by herself, and I didn't want to play because I didn't want to play by myself. But we were using two different definitions there. Like, I wanted to continue playing, but I didn't want to do it on my own. Sparrow just didn't want to actually hunt by herself. So that's the Rotten Vale is where we stay. That's where we were. And then finally, once I figured out how to get Freedom Unite done multiplayer, I convinced Sparrow to play. And then we decided to stream it. I was like, hey, you think that would be cool? And she's like, okay, cool. And then here we are. And I guess, you know, the rest is history.
An eternity later.
One eternity later. So yeah. Basically, yeah, I coerced these two into
we were forced to do
this. Oh, we didn't choose to be here. Although Cosmic did choose. And it was funny watching the first few quests with him because he was super excited when he killed a crab. I remember it like it was yesterday. The very first quest that he came in, and he had a great sword, and it took him 5 minutes to kill a small hermitar, and then finally he killed it, and he was like, oh, "I did it! I killed a crab!"
But we were playing like a way higher rank than I was really supposed to be playing.
Oh, right.
So you guys were fighting like the actual monster, and I was struggling to fight the little side character.
Yeah. But it was funny because it's like, this is annoying, and then finally it died, and he's like, yeah, I killed it. I'm like, yep, that's how it is. That perfectly encapsulates this game.
I was doing what y'all were doing with the big monster. I was just doing it with the little one.
And now he's
just as difficult.
And now he's probably better than all three of us, or than the rest of us.
Oh no, I'm not. Not a chance. I didn't beat that last quest.
Yeah, well. I didn't beat it the first 10 times either. All right, so the next question is, what draws us to the game personally? So again, like I was saying, I basically wanted to fight monsters with someone that I controlled, meaning not like turn-based. You know, I wasn't looking for Final Fantasy because I played Final Fantasy. I wanted to be in control of the fight. I wanted to fight it myself. I wanted to make things, or, you know, make armor, make weapons based on what I was fighting. Now, this is the kind of game that I was looking for before I realized that there was a game like this that exists. So I didn't really know anything about Monster Hunter aside from that one single interaction, and I didn't know anything else really about it. And so when I was on the lookout for this game, these were the things I was looking for. And then I found Monster Hunter, and I'm like, wow, that is exactly what I'm looking for. And so that's what drew me to it, because the idea that you learn, you fight the monsters, and then you end up beating them because you grew as a player, as opposed to my number bigger, you know. You guys have anything else to say to that, or did y'all basically already?
Well, I like being goofy with y'all, and I gotta admit, I do love my Kutku and my Keizu, but basically we have fun with each other because we goof off and pick on each other. That's basically it. Because I wouldn't play this by myself.
I think
I gotta agree with Sparrow on that one. Just really the multiplayer, because I don't ever play any games online multiplayer, and I've never done anything like this where, you know, I stick with a group and we play a game all the way through. This is a first, and it's a really fun experience. It's just hard to do.
Yeah.
Cosmic was
Can be
telling me at
annoying.
one point that if it wasn't for us playing with him, he says, I would have never played this darn game. Never.
No.
I would not have bothered. I would have been like, not for me.
I tried not to
Now,
play it.
however, though, now it's changed. You know, it's kind of grown on me, and you know, I'm willing to pick up Monster Hunter anytime, and
It does that.
give it a go. I've already
really
started a
does.
new profile just so I can have something to play when we're not playing.
Yeah.
And I picked up another weapon.
It's
and, you know,
because I'm throttling Cosmic on 3U because I don't want him to go too far. I don't want him to see too many things. And so he's like, fine,
Pretty
I'll
much.
just start over.
pretty much. But it's been a nice experience to do that, though, to kind of go back and mess around with some of the stuff that I didn't get to mess around with because I did a speed run to catch up with you guys.
I've been bugging Cosmic about his experience replaying it because my experience, because I think Sparrow and Cosmic both have very different initial experiences with Freedom Unite than I did. Because my initial experience was banging my head against the wall until it broke because I didn't know what I was doing. And so when I think back about Freedom Unite and how difficult it was for me, it was ridiculously difficult. Remember, I played Freedom Unite for 200 hours before I beat the Urgent Tigrix. I was 200 hours in before I beat that. I had no idea what I was doing. In contrast, these two, Sparrow beat it in half the time, even though she really struggled with him at first. And Cosmic beat it in a fraction of the time.
Yeah, kinda.
So, all right, the next one is what about the difficulty and challenge? I put specifically compared to previous titles, but I mean, you guys don't really have too many previous titles to compare it to, but just in general, what are your thoughts about the difficulty and the challenge of Freedom Unite?
It's good. It's a good difficulty, a good challenge.
It drives me nuts. Like, I get mad a lot if I die. It doesn't happen very often, but like for me, it's just like the Tigrix. Okay, like I got so mad to the point where I just wanted to cry, and I think I did at one point.
A few
But I was
times,
like,
yeah.
yeah, I was like, I can't do this, and this was by myself because
I couldn't fight it with her. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like playing this stupid game by myself. It's just not a thing. So the difficulty is like I want to throw the remote at the TV.
Yeah, there was a time where Sparrow needed some monster parts from a monster, but to get to that monster, she had to beat the Tigrix because it was a solo monster, as a Monoblos or Lunastra, I forget which one. But either way, both of those monsters they don't show up until, I think it was a Monoblos, but it doesn't show up until after you beat the Tigrix. So she had to fight the Tigrix. There was no other way to help her progress in the weapon that we were trying to get, and it took her a minute. But although I'll be honest, you beat it quicker than I did when I tried to beat it, because it took me longer, as far as a number of attempts, to beat the Tigrix than it did for you, Sparrow.
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, I mean, I was there with you. I was helping you, giving you ideas, kind of telling you helping you figure out how to deal with it. And again, I didn't have
A
any
lot
of
of
that.
stuff that he had to figure out on his own.
Yeah, I didn't
but the
have any
thing
of that.
about-
I just
the thing
ran my
about it,
face
though-
against it until I beat it.
As many times as it took me to fight this thing, like I kept having to do it. But when I finally did it, the relief is just like, it's like, okay, I'm glad that's over with. You put so much effort into it because you can go into a quest and like kill something like that, but then you can go into the same exact quest and you can fail it.
Just get slapped around. Yeah. Like
So, like,
I
I've
didn't
went
beat
in.
it. All right, go ahead.
I've went
You
into
never know what
quest
you're
with
gonna
like I've went into quest with like a Yangaruga, danced around it, killed it in like 5 minutes, and then not get what I need, go right back in and triple cart in 5 minutes. And it's like, what just happened? Like I just spanked this thing. What is going on? I don't like this.
That happens.
Yeah,
That happens.
Go on,
That
Cosmic.
happens so much.
it's the worst.
Go in and own it, and then go back in and it own you. It's
Yeah.
like, what?
It's like I don't understand.
I think the mindset has a lot to do with it. Like if you go in there and you beat it, and then you go back in and try to do it, and you're so cocky, like, oh, I beat this thing, I can do it again.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then it's like, yeah, no.
This is nothing. Slap. What was that? Surprise.
I think that's why I did so well with Tigrex. I think if I didn't beat him on my first try, it was like my third try.
But
And
you had
it's
fought
because
him.
I had my,
You had fought him before, though,
Do
with
what?
us, correct?
oh, that's true. I guess I may have.
But you already
Yeah.
had experience with this stupid guy.
Maybe a little bit. But then I also had my
course,
speed run guide that was
You were
telling me
also using
everything I
Great
needed.
Sword, and Tigrex is like Great Sword is prime to fight a Tigrex with. There's only other than Hammer, there's not many weapons that are better to fight a Tigrex with than Great Sword.
But I did it with a bow.
Because you can stagger lock him so hard if you have the right Great Sword.
But I did it with a bow.
You did do it with a bow. I'm so proud of you. So for me, again, like I was saying, Monster Hunter Freedom Unite was very difficult when I started. But since again I've played the original Monster Hunter PS2, the difficulty for Monster Hunter PS2 was, it was ridiculous. Like it was like, again, I have yet right now to beat the low rank Kutku in Monster Hunter PS2. It was just hard. They hit hard. The way you had to fight, because you didn't use the buttons to attack. You used the analog stick to attack. So there was a whole different control scheme, and there was barely any real camera control. And it was much more difficult in that game at the time. And again, that was even before Freedom Unite, so I really had no idea what I was doing in that game. So Monster Hunter, in my opinion, the difficulty of Monster Hunter is nice in that I think other people for some reason disagree. I don't understand, but I think Freedom Unite ramps the difficulty in such a gradual way that everything does get noticeably harder, but in my opinion, there's no difficulty cliffs. Like there's no mass gap in difficulty. So like if you're fighting a HR3 monster, the difficulty of that monster, or the difficulty of the next rank, is not going to be gaps harder than the one you just fought. It's going to be harder, but it's not going to be so much harder that you just can't handle it. And that, in my opinion, is much better than some games where like the difficulty on one level is one thing, and then once you get to the next logical jump, it's a massive leap in difficulty, and now everything just wants to, everything is just horribly harder. And like, I don't think Freedom Unite did that. Now, by the end of it, it gets real grueling and crazy, but I think the progression to that point is done so well that once you figure the game out, it's really I think it's really peak difficulty scaling, in my opinion. And again, I'll go back to talk about what Sparrow said. I've played many games. I've beaten many Final Fantasies. I've played many other kinds of games, war games, strategy games. I've beaten all the Kingdom Hearts, severely underleveled, and I mean, nothing nothing that I've done in any other game has compared to the rush of beating a monster that's been slapping you around. I mean, there's just nothing, in my opinion, that compares to it. Getting your butt stomped and then realizing, okay, well, I gotta increase this, I gotta make this better, I gotta do this better, and then you get back in there, and then finally you beat it, and it's just, whew, like Sparrow heard me from across the house once I finally beat the Monster Hunter quest. She heard me from across the house. Like it was crazy because I didn't expect it because when the monsters die in this game, they just die. Like it's just all of a sudden, boom, quest complete. What? And then that's the end of it because it hits
I think that it's because there's no bar telling you how close the monster is to die. There's no way of knowing unless it's limping.
Oh yeah, there's and when you're doing, and sometimes the monster don't limp. Like if you're doing some quests in arenas, the monster's not gonna limp because some monsters only limp when they're trying to change zones. And when you do places where there's only one zone, there is no limping. You fight in a Cantor, you fight Ucanlos, you fight Fatalis, stuff like that. They don't limp. There's no visual indication that this monster's about to die. They just keel over. Mm-hmm. And it's like, ooh, it's dead. Woo. Mm-hmm. So let's talk about the gameplay itself.
I mean, it's simple when you know what you're doing, but you got to play it in order to figure out what you're doing.
Yeah. So, like, Monster Hunter is not a fast game, and Monster Hunter Freedom Unite especially is not a very fast game. You know, you think of Capcom. Capcom also made Devil May Cry, made the most recent Resident Evils and stuff like that. And so a lot of those games have gotten or have always been pretty fast paced. Monster Hunter is not always fast paced, and so when you're playing this game, you're this minuscule little person against this massive beast that should be able to step on you and crush you. And then, like, because the game is slow and because you have to pay attention to what you're doing, every time you get a flinch, every time a monster starts a charge and then you stop it by hitting it before it gets to you. I mean, every time you do learn how to do that kind of stuff, when you learn how to position yourself to hit monsters correctly and avoid their attacks and almost make their attacks pointless, and like when you learn how to do these kinds of things in a game that's not a fast game, it really, you know, it does something to you. It makes you feel like you've become something in a way that, like, you know, Devil May Cry or Street Fighter or something like that really can't do, because everybody's fast, everybody is, you know, running circles around opponents and stuff like that. And in this game in particular, that's not the case. And when you figure out how to do that anyway, it's next level.
I agree.
I agree. I agree.
I am Groot.
All right, so now we get to the fun part. What are your favorite monsters?
I think everybody that watches this knows what my favorite ones are. You gotta throw my Kutku and my Keizu in there. There are probably other monsters that I like, but not as much as those, mainly because they're big and pretty.
Big and pretty.
Yeah, I like the looks of the what are the stupid things we're fighting right now?
Fatalis?
Yeah, Fatalis. I like the way they look because they're so pretty, but I don't want to fight them. You know what I mean?
They're cancer.
But I will fight a Kutku and a Keizu any day, over and over again. That's it.
Yeah.
Cosmic.
I definitely like the way Nargacuga looks. Pretty awesome. I think that's the coolest looking monster, in my opinion.
Very neat design.
Yeah, Nargacuga is pretty awesome. But I don't enjoy fighting him. I really don't.
I definitely agree with you. It's cool looking, but
No, not today. No.
Not today, not tomorrow, not on your uncle's birthday.
All right.
Not on your uncle's birthday.
Okay. My favorite, though, I think I decided was Leviathath or Levizioth, whatever.
There's something wrong with you.
For context, because no one likes the Vizioth. For context, Cosmic fought this monster like 4 dozen times to get his armor set, and he got very good at fighting him.
Well, I'll say this: like, I hated Plesioth and Green Plesioth. Oh my god, worst monsters for me as a great sword user.
Yeah, they're pretty trash for melee.
Yeah, they slaughter me until I finally got better at it, and if it wasn't so annoying, I might actually like them. But it was just so much. Over and over again, losing and dying and just barely making it through by the skin of my teeth. Vazioth was, he's a Plesioth, basically, but in lava. I mean, so that's just cool right there. And, he just looks cool. And I was able to hold my own with him. I feel like I did really well. I was able to fight him on my own sometimes. And then when we would all play, we couldn't beat it together.
Yeah, there were a few times we did worse, and Cosmic's like, I'll just fight him on my own. I got this.
Sometimes it's it's easier when you can hold their attention because you can control the battle. But when they're all over the place, it changes the dynamic, and sometimes it can actually make it more difficult.
Yeah, like
sometimes Braun just needs to drop off so me and Cosmic can finish it.
Well, hey, me and Sparrow don't do that bad on our own.
Yeah, we don't.
Well, I don't do that bad on my own either. I just do bad when I'm with y'all. What's that say? What does that say more about me or about y'all? Don't answer that.
Wow. Okay,
so, no, like I understand that. One of the things I ended up having to do to finally beat Tigrex was to take my Palico off. One of the things I was having trouble with is not really being able to. So like once I put the game down and I picked it up after the fact, and when I picked it up, I left my Palico at home. I wanted a weapon where I could get more reach, so then I put on a longsword, made my Eager Cleaver, which is a lightning-based longsword, and it only took a few attempts at that point or after that. But yeah, when you're the only one in the fight, then it's just you and the monster, and there's not a lot of switching back and forth, and you know exactly where he's going to look, you know exactly where he's going to aim, you know what direction he's going to go, you know how to punish that direction. Yeah. And when there's more people there, theoretically it's easier, but it really depends on what you're fighting.
Yeah.
So my favorites, I always have 2 different categories. My favorite design.
My second favorite was Kushala, by the way. I didn't get to say, but I did like Kushala, and I enjoyed that fight as well.
The 2 monsters that he farmed continuously.
Yeah, pretty much.
He's rid the world of more Kushalas and Vizioths than all of us combined. So my favorite designed monster is Chameleos. Like I haven't encountered a monster in game that I enjoy the aesthetic of more than Chameleos. He is definitely my favorite. I mean, we still have a lot of games to go, so I'm sure there's still more to see. But at the moment, that's my boy. I even got a cup. Sparrow got Cosmic's wife to make me a coffee cup with Chameleos on the coffee cup. It's pretty cool. I like it. So she does that kind of stuff. If you guys want things, hit Cosmic up. His wife will make you things for a fee.
For a fee.
Quest fee.
Advertise fee.
My favorite fight, though, my favorite monster to fight right now is in Freedom Unite is Diablos. When I first started fighting Diablos and Monoblos, I mean, you can use them interchangeably, but Diablos is more common because Monoblos is a single player fight. But when I first fought these types of monsters, I would constantly fight the clock. It'd be 5 minutes left, running the clock out. People talk about now, there's a lot of hunters that have a problem now with hunts lasting more than 15 minutes. I mean, I would run against the clock on a Diablos or a Monoblos back when I first started fighting them. I mean, I really took a long time to figure out how to navigate these fights. Now, I could take that guy out in like 10 minutes. Maybe less, and that really just depends on how much they bury or how much they dig. because I know the fight so well. I know where to stand. I know how to roll. I know how to get out of the way of the charge. I know, and you fight them enough, you just figure it out, and it becomes like clockwork almost. Cosmic needed to farm some Black Diablos a few times, and we'd be doing dual Black Diablos quests, and we'd have the Diablos dead before they even converged on the same area, or captured at least.
Right.
And Cosmic's like, man, I always have so much trouble with this quest. And I'm like, I got you, bud. And then we just tear them up.
Absolutely.
So yeah, my favorite design is Chameleos. My favorite fight is definitely Diablos. And we'll see if that changes in the future. So now let's get a little more broad. What about how do you guys feel about the monster selection in general in Freedom Unite? As far as different types of monsters, different levels of difficulty, different things like that.
Oh yeah, there's like so many things in there, and all kind of different things. You got small things, big things. Some of the big things are easier than the small things.
Some of them,
and
yeah.
vice versa.
Looking at you, Kieran and Lau. You talk about
Kieran,
polar
oh my
opposites
God.
in size and difficulty. Kieran and Lau. There you go right there. Jesus. One of them is just boring because he has a lot of health. The other one is like, can you touch this? Nah, 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 nah. Slash. It's like, stop
Pretty
moving.
Yeah, they all have their unique qualities, except Nagakuga. That guy can jump off a monkey.
Nargacuga is great when you learn how to fight him. I've
Like
tried
it.
so many times to show Sparrow how to fight Nargacuga.
I stay away from the guy. I don't even touch him. Don't throw no arrows at him or nothing, and he will still end up killing me. I'll sit back and watch what he does, and he'll still be like, "Hey, what are you doing?"
Hey, what you doing over there? You need to put that laser away, Sparrow.
I honestly rather the laser light. I'd rather fight a Tigrex over a Nargacuga, and that's saying something.
That is
I
saying something.
Tigrex.
No, it has a super diverse selection of monsters, and then it's not even that. Like you get different monsters in the same classes, you get different varying levels of fight. It's like for every Congalala, there's a Rajang. And then, for those of you who don't know, who may be young enough to not know what a Congalala is, that is worse monkey.
He's not bad.
I don't know. I like him less than Blanganga. In the quality of simian fights, it's Congalala at the bottom, Blanganga, and then Rajang at the top.
I don't mind fighting the monkeys.
But it's not just about that. It's also about difficulty. Congalala, believe it or not, does hit pretty hard, but he barely can hit you because he's almost not fast enough to get you. But Rajang,
all that gas weighing him down.
Rajang is a different story. You got to really pay attention to not get hit by that guy, because if you slow down at all, you're fainted. And so even within the same category of monster, there's such different ones. And of course, there's a bunch of the monsters that people don't like. Again, Congalala, King Shakalaka, who was probably the hardest G-rank monster ever. I mean, good lord. Do y'all remember the King Shakalaka fights? I do.
Yeah.
He's freaking tiny. His stagger limit is ridiculous. He swings that sword and never stops. And you're like,
using a bow on him.
No, he just shreds your hit. He just shreds your HP, and it's like, where did it go? He's horrible. Gosh, I killed one once and never fought one again because I didn't need to. I had my thing. Anyway, Cephalos, those are pretty bad ones too. Nobody likes those.
Oh God, yes, Cephalos.
Oh,
I've
my
been
goodness.
farming Cephalos like crazy.
They stink.
Going back, playing playing again. Man, it's annoying, but
Yeah.
I'm actually getting not so bad at it.
Yeah, you just have to remember to bring things to get them out of the freaking sand. You get them out of the sand, you're okay, but otherwise they'll just...
I don't do that.
Well,
No, I have runner and I have negate heat, so I don't have to worry about stamina or heat. And I just chase them around. I figured out how to get them out of the ground by just chasing them and smacking them when they come by.
Another ones that people don't really like are Basarios and Gravios, simply because it's very difficult to just.
I like the Gravios.
Well, it's difficult because it's difficult to hit them with if you're using a blade or a hammer or something, because their hide is very tough. Like, as for me,
and then they constantly like blow you up if you're near them. Like,
blow you up, put you to sleep, poison you. Like I made my first bow gun to deal with Gravios because I knew that he was going to be a rock monster. I knew I was going to bounce every time I hit him, so I was like, I'm not even going to bother. I'm just going to make a gun. And then I've always fought them with guns, so I've never really had any issues with them. But a lot of people refuse to do that. They'll refuse to pick up a gun because they don't want to do that. They want to hit them with big stick, and then they get angry because big stick go bounce. And it's like, I don't know what you expect.
What you're talking about.
Yeah, like me and Sparrow don't have any problems with him really, because I range him and Sparrow ranges everything.
Yeah.
And then another one that everyone, another monster that everyone seems to not like is Cosmic's favorite monster, Kushala, because nobody likes a monster that constantly knocks you down. You get near him and it's like, nah, you're on the floor. That wind aura is crazy.
Until you break his head.
Until you break it. Once you break it, it's like, all right, you're mine now. But up until that point, it's like, even Sparrow has issues with him because it makes her arrows come back and hit her.
Yeah, it doesn't take off that much health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sparrow's arrows will come back. Her arrows will come back and hit her and then kind of stagger her a little bit, which is the worst part of that. Because if she staggers a little bit and then he runs into her, well, she's dead.
Yeah, but I figured out when he's doing it, I can usually dodge. Now I can dodge my arrow from hitting me.
Yeah. Can dodge my arrow.
Dodge your own arrow from
dodge my own arrow.
Ouch.
And then, but of course, most of the fights in Freedom Unite, in my opinion, are great. They got the Rajang, the Wraths. I personally like the Wrath fights. They used to be annoying. Tigrex, Nargacugus, maybe not for Sparrow, but and honestly, I kind of like Lao. I know he's big and boring, but I like the whole big monster spectacle thing. I like it.
I like him.
And then, of course, our most recent endeavor, Eucanlos. That fight was...
Nope.
That fight was great. I enjoyed it.
That was intense.
That was
I really liked it.
It's so much harder than
a Cantor? Yeah. I mean, it's
way harder.
It was so fun, in my opinion. I think it's great because he really keeps you on your toes. And
I'll tell you what, when since we had to beat it 3 times, like each time we done it, it was just such a relief. But then you think about it, oh crap, we gotta do this again. Oh no, wait, we gotta do it again. So it's like, no.
Sparrow just doesn't like him because he makes her faint.
Each time we fought it was worse.
It just sucks.
It makes her what?
Sparrow doesn't like Eucanlos because he made her faint a lot.
Whatever. He made everyone faint.
That's the point. That's the point.
No one was safe from that.
But Sparrow never faints, and then he just killed her a lot. One time he killed her one time we started the quest, we went into the area, and then he killed her as soon as she got into the area. He's like, that one's going to be trouble, and then just killed her.
Like, well, I'll see you guys in a minute.
I'll be back.
Do over.
Yeah, it was great.
Let me try this again. Let me walk out and come back in.
Yeah. Yeah, see, what happened was...
Okay. We got off on the wrong foot.
So, we're going to talk about the weapons now. What weapons did you guys main through Freedom Unite?
Greatsword.
Bow.
Greatsword.
I love my bow.
Greatsword.
I hate any weapon that makes me go slow and not be able to dodge easily. But my bow, it don't matter what kind of bow I got on. Yeah, I'm a bow, just all the way.
You know, she says that, but greatsword, I can block with the greatsword, and if you have it out, you're slow. But to not be able to block after being so used to blocking, it's kind of painful. When I tried to run around with those dual swords, I can run around so much. You can pretty much go the same speed with your swords out than in.
Yeah, dual swords has like the fastest movement speed, I think. Yeah,
but
you can't.
can't block.
Nope.
So don't even try.
So when I first started Freedom Unite, I played with Sword and Shield for that first 200 hours that I didn't know what I was doing, and then
Oh, nice.
afterwards I switched to Longsword, and of course I use ranged when I fight certain monsters. But essentially, I play Longsword. I learned how to use the hammer for a little bit because I needed a bunch of Monoblos hearts, I think. And the easiest way to get a Monoblos heart is from breaking a Hermitar shell. Not even from Monoblos, believe it or not. So I learned how to use the hammer solely for the purpose of breaking Hermitar shells. I'm not good at it, but I can do it. So yeah, for me, Longsword basically has been my main. I like the heavy bowgun though, because I can kill a Rajang with a heavy bowgun without even trying. I mean, even as fast as Rajang is with a heavy bowgun, he's nothing. I could take him out without even sweating. Because it's just his fight for some reason is super easy with a ranged weapon, and heavy bowguns hit so hard it's not a quick fight, or it's not a long fight.
Nice.
Of course, Cosmic will never know because he's Blade Master for life.
Oh, I'm terrified of using a bow, a ranged weapon. It's a whole new game. It's a whole new experience.
It's totally different.
I don't know if I can bring myself to it. The closest I've gotten to it is using a gun lance.
Yeah. The closest he's gotten to a ranged weapon is using a Blade Master weapon that has a ranged component.
I don't count.
It counts. Leave me alone.
It counts, darn it. I have a cannon on this thing. That counts.
Dang right.
So, all right. The next one is there any items or gear from the game that stands out to you? So for me, pretty much all of the stat boosting items. You're talking about demon drugs, armor skins, the charms, the talons. These things are godly. Like they really, and you wouldn't think they were. And I'll put it this way: you wouldn't think that they really make that big a difference. And whether it's a mechanical difference, meaning like the numbers make the difference, or if it's a difference in peace of mind. But when you're fighting and you slap an armor skin or something on there, it makes you feel more powerful whether or not you really have that big of a change. Because the idea of fighting the monster, because I had to rearrange my item loadout when I was trying the Monster Hunter quest a couple times, and like everybody's like, don't worry about the armor skins, you won't really need them anyway, they don't add that much. And I'm like, I know I am not going to get rid of the armor skins. I don't care if I don't need them that much. I'm going to use them because I want all the numbers I can get. And like whether or not they really make that big a difference, it's just early game they make a huge difference. Of course, as you go on, they don't. But as far as like gear that comes out, I pretty much die on the hill of sharpness. Like anything that increases sharpness, sharp sword, sharpness +1, sharpness skill increase. Anything that helps me keep the highest sharpness I can on my weapon for as long as possible. That's the gear that I went with essentially. And then I also don't like being roar stunned, so I always have a gear that I can wear depending on what we're fighting, because one of the things I hate more than losing sharpness is being roar stunned. So everybody's over there clutching their ears like, ow, and I'm beating it in his face.
Well, I don't really have to worry about that because I'm far enough away that sometimes it doesn't bother me.
For most monsters, yeah, you don't have to worry about it.
With greatsword, if you get roar stunned, you can just about, if you don't have enough time to roll out of the way or anything, you can just about always block it if they do an attack to follow up a roar stun. So I'm not too worried about that with greatsword.
So what kind of gear or items stand out to you guys that y'all really relied on?
Well, y'all are relying on my current set because
especially in G rank.
Yes.
So
Sparrow,
I don't get the luxury of picking something else because I have to save their butts.
To be fair, I asked you if you wanted to do that, and you were like, okay.
I mean, it helps because
you can't just change. You can't just change jobs.
Look, it took her to the Fatalis fight to start actually charging her bow shots. I don't think she's that concerned.
I'm not. I'm really, as long as it's pretty looking, I don't care.
Cosmic went there. I wasn't gonna go there. But...
As long as it's pretty, I don't care. I'm a girl.
And Cosmic has been milking that guts armor.
Not on purpose.
It's a byproduct.
Hold on, I got you.
Every swipe. Oh my gosh! Every dive. I'm gonna die.
Cosmic, you got that? Do I need to save you again?
I hope he doesn't exhale.
Let's really hope he doesn't know how to fart. I mean, goodness.
Jeez, Sparrow.
Nobody kick me.
Nobody kick me, please. So, what the next one? I don't think that you guys will have much of a input on, but the next one is the quality of life changes. Basically, that were introduced. I don't think that either of y'all have anything for this. Do y'all?
No.
So, as the only one that's coming from a previous game, I'm going to explain quite a few things that you guys probably didn't realize were quality of life increases. The first thing I'm going to...
using the analog stick. That's terrible.
Right, but like the first thing that I'm going to bring up is the fact that we have 3 item pages. You had 2 back in the day. You had to deal with combos, books of combos, items, and dealing with carves, and you only had 2 pages of items to work with. I mean, could you imagine playing the game we are now with only 2 pages of items? Like,
you wouldn't be able to gather anything.
No, you wouldn't.
Until you went on a gathering quest.
Exactly.
You have to do multiple gathering quests.
Also, there's that. In the original game, there were no harvest quests. There were no paw print quests. Every quest you went on, you had to complete the objective, or you couldn't do anything. And then on top of that, when you did complete the objective, there was no send item to box. You had to actually have inventory space in your 2 pages of items to take whatever materials you got from the quest. So you would have to pick and choose what to leave and what to take with you. And the fact that you had to basically manually make everything, and there was no farm, there was no palicos, there was no kitchen, there was no crafting items in your box. So whenever you wanted to craft an item, you had to take the materials out of your box and put them in your inventory. You had to take your books of combos out of the box and put them in your inventory, craft them in your inventory, and then put everything back in your box.
That's retarded.
Yeah. And then on top of all of that, you had to remove monster materials from your box into your inventory, manually walk them to the blacksmith to get whatever you want made.
I'm glad we're not playing that game.
There was no bow in Monster Hunter PS2. Bow was not introduced until the 2nd gen. The greatsword didn't have a charge. There were no charging. You just swung. Long swords were great swords. They were the same category of weapon. You didn't have equipment sets. You had to manually put everything. You didn't even have decorations in the first Monster Hunter. You also didn't know what skills were on the armor in the first Monster Hunter. You had no idea.
Jeez, man. We live in luxury now.
I'm right. I mean, there was so much. You couldn't upgrade armor either. What you got was what you got. There were no armor levels. So if the armor that your armor had was what it had until you got different armor. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the comfy skills that we're used to didn't exist.
The fact that you can sell stuff from your item box.
That didn't exist either.
Does that go away in the next game?
No, it's still there. It's just under a sub menu called Manage Items. But
okay, I need to revisit that.
Yeah. So, and of course, the biggest quality of life change was the fact that they changed the control scheme so that you actually use face buttons as opposed to analog sticks. So there's been so much that was changed from when I first started, even though it was brief, from when I first started to where we are in the current game. So yeah, I mean, it's a pretty sweet deal, even from Freedom Unite. And Freedom Unite is the game that no one ever recommends anyone go back to play. Like, people purposely avoid recommending people play Freedom Unite because of how old it is, and it's like, this ain't nothing. Like, this is nothing. Right. So what about the time to finish quest? One of the big things that's going on now in the community regarding like newer games that we haven't really played much yet is everybody talks about, you know, hunts taking too long, things take too long to fight. I don't want to have to fight a hunt that takes more than 5 minutes because that's stupid. And it's like, do you even Monster Hunter, bro?
Do you even Monster Hunter?
Because, I mean, I in the beginning I said we're not really going to talk about newer games, but this one here is really kind of an idea about, do you think it takes too long to fight monsters inherently?
Sometimes I feel like I could use a few extra minutes, because this one time I went in and I couldn't find the stupid monster. Like, I spent 20 minutes just trying to find the stupid thing. I'm like, I'm not.
You guys were running the same circle.
Yeah.
But see, that's part of the issue. That's part of the issue. It shouldn't have took you 20 minutes. So that's another thing. You know, should it take 20 minutes to find a monster?
Wave at the balloon.
It usually doesn't, but I just had the worst luck that time.
Yeah, that happens.
Now
I like that skill. I don't know. Is it in FU? I know it's in through a future game that I'm not going to mention. But what's where you can actually track the monster the whole time. You just always know where it's at.
Yeah,
is that on FU too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have.
That's pretty cool.
I actually
always know where it's at.
I had an equipment set once upon a time that had auto tracker. I didn't have it for auto tracker, but I had it, or it was a byproduct of the other abilities that I had, or other skills that I had. But yeah, it existed, cool. And you know, there's psycho serums, which are good for finding out, you know, where the monster goes or where the monster is. That's a pretty cheap item. So I mean, there are definitely ways to get around that. So I mean, let's assume that you find the monster in a reasonable time. How do the hunt times feel for you guys? Because personally, for me, I really think it's more to do with ability, with your skill. Because like when I first started, I was talking about this earlier, fighting a Monoblos or a Diablos would legitimately take 48 minutes from start of quests to finally winning. And most of the time, that was from capturing. Like I wouldn't even be able to kill it before the time ran out. I would capture it because I would be running out of time. And then,
I'm gonna disagree with you there.
I mean, it might not have taken you that long, but I'm just talking about personal experience.
No, you're talking about how it's. You said skill. It's based off of you getting better at it.
Well, I said assuming you find the monster in a reasonable amount of time. In other words, you're not spending 15 minutes looking for the monster. You find the monster within about within about 2 or 3 minutes, and then from that point on, how long it takes depends on how good you are.
Disagree. Disagree.
Yes.
Because fighting Plesioth in the jungle when there's literally only 2 places for it to be, and you can't get the stupid thing to come out of the water,
man,
for 20 minutes. You know right where it's at.
If only they made
the dumb thing.
If only they made an item that you can carry 10 of and combine for in the field.
I have thrown Sonic bombs at that idiot when he was like buried way deep.
If only they made weapons that can reach him when he's in the water to make him come out.
All right.
Personally, I've never had that issue with Plesioth. I've always been able to shoot him out of the water.
He has given me crap.
Yeah.
I normally can get his attention, either throw a paintball at him or just kind of run around and swing my sword, and he'll be like, "Oh, somebody's there," and he'll come out. But there's been other times when he's just like, "F you, I don't want to fight you today, so I'm going to go hang out in this water and ignore you."
But I mean,
well, great.
And that's certainly a what is it extraneous
Exception.
example. Plesioth and maybe Cephalos would kind of deal with that, because those two guys like to hide in the water or in the sand and don't really like to come out unless you get them to come out. So like
Diablos and who's the other one? The guys with the shell, Cianatars. Whichever ones dig. They can do that too. They can get to where they just stay underground the whole time. It's like, dude, come out so I can kill you.
And Diablos are worse
come
because
out and go right back in.
While you're you can get them out, or you can have them pop. You can avoid their or use it against them up until they start to get low on health, because then they're always angry, and once they're always angry, you can't do anything when they're on the ground because they ignore. The method of getting them out doesn't work anymore when they're enraged, and they're always enraged when they're close to death. So they could run the clock out going underground all the time. But that's some of the stuff I had to deal with though when I was learning, or when I was fighting them originally and not really knowing what I was doing. But I mean, those are really the only monsters that I ever took that long to fight, because in the beginning one of them took that long, and then after a while, I had to fight more than one of them, and more than one of them used to take that long. But then I became so good at that particular monster that now it's not really much of anything to fight him. But other than just that, it took a long time to really learn how to use the weapon I had changed to efficiently. But then, like, once you figure out how to use it, you fight the monsters enough, you know what they're doing, you know what they're about, you start to learn how to counter what they're doing. Maybe not counter, maybe that's not really the best word, but to use what they're doing against them and for your benefit. Then hunts start to get close, take less time. Like right now, and even as good as we are, in my opinion, right now, for us to finish a quest in G rank in less than 15 minutes is quick. Unless we're like bullying a freaking Kazu or something, or we're bullying some low tier monster. That's one thing, but like fighting an HR9 monster at HR9 now, it's fairly rare for it to finish in less than 15 minutes, and to me that's still a quick hunt. Especially since most elder dragons we can kill before they run away, but still they get real close to that 25-minute mark before they go down. And I'm just curious how y'all feel about how long it takes to finish a quest, considering one big thing on everyone's mind now is
I think we have accurate time. I don't think
I don't think any of the hunts really feel drug out, except for the ones that are legitimately drug out, like any of them at the fortress.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think if we're worried about getting them killed in 5 minutes or less, then we would be more concerned about being pro, and we are not.
No.
We just like to enjoy the game and get through it. We want the monster to die.
Yeah, we want them to end at some point, And I just thought that was a good thing to ask, because, like I said, considering the climate nowadays is for killing everything quickly and in like 5 minutes or less, and if you're not running, if you're not playing like a pro, then you don't know what you're doing, and it's like, you guys need to chill. Anyway,
I think it's perfectly acceptable to say that every monster, maybe not everyone, but a good majority of them, there should be a way for you to have exactly the right stuff and play it exactly the right way and kill it relatively quickly. Sure.
Of course.
But you have to have the perfect setup, and it has to go perfectly. Which we've seen some pretty amazing fights, with some stuff that we fought. That's we've a full
fought
50 minutes and somebody else.
And somebody else will come in and just murder it, and it's like, okay.
I think the only time we've ever complained about the time is not having enough time. Like, okay, we got like 10 minutes. We got to get this thing done. And usually we get it done. So, but that's like the only time I've ever.
Typically typically that's our fault, not the monster's fault.
And that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying, though. That's what I'm saying. Like, how long
mainly
a quest takes you really depends on you. And I don't think we've ever fought anything that's really just been like, oh my god, this is taking forever.
Yeah.
All right, so now we'll go on to logistics. How do you guys feel about how much farming is needed as far as parts and money to get like equipment and stuff?
Farming is a pain.
Yeah.
And you need a lot of money for the good stuff. But like you get your money's worth. Once you finally get all that stuff, it's worth it. You know what I mean?
So you're saying the grind is annoying, but the rewards from the grind is enough to make it worth it in the end.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
I
Depends
don't
on what it is that you have. Well, I don't have to
Cosmic's
fight.
like, I don't know about that.
Well, it's different for me because my monsters that I use for that is not as a pain in the butt as the monsters y'all fight to get your stuff.
Yeah, it definitely depends on what you're trying to get, and I think it also helps when you know what you're trying to get, what you want it for, and what you're hoping to accomplish with what you're getting. And a lot of people, some people who
They get burnt
play,
out.
yeah, and like. To be honest, though, I think that we have gotten historically very good, barring a couple times, we've gotten very good drop rates considering some of our stuff. Like I think Cosmic had to fight entirely too many Levizioths to finish his armor, but for the most part, we do pretty good when it comes to the luck aspect.
Yeah.
Sparrow
But it's like
gets
Sparrow
so
said.
many freaking Elder Dragon gems and heavenly scales, and she doesn't even need them.
I don't even need them.
She doesn't. They come in like freaking candy. She's sitting over there swimming in rare materials that I need, and I'm like, you freaking.
The monsters come in like, ooh, the pretty lady's here. Let's give her this.
Right. I mean, I still get what I need, and for the most part, I get it much quicker than a lot of people. Because, like, for instance, a heavenly Lao scale. I ended up getting 2 of them, I think, over the course of my playthrough. And a Heavenly Lao scale is the most rare item to farm based on its actual drop rate and based on how much goes into killing the monster you get it from. Because considering the fact that most items like a Heavenly Scale can be carved out of a tail, and so most of the time, all you have to do is go cut off a monster's tail, restart, cut off a monster's tail, restart, cut over a monster's tail. Considering you can do that for pretty much everything else, you can't do that kind of stuff for Lao. And so you have to go through his whole fight for the opportunity of maybe getting that scale. And considering all of that, a Lao Heavenly Scale is one of the most difficult things to get. And
I have a few of those.
I've got a few. Yeah, we've got a few of them. So I think all things considered, we have really good luck when it comes to drop rates.
Yeah.
Especially compared to some people.
Yeah.
And so like for me, it's not so much like, and it's not. In my opinion, the worst things that I've had to farm for are not really the rare things like that. It's stuff like broken parts.
Or like a webbing or something. Webbings were always the most difficult thing to get.
Right. And it's because you have to break the part, but you can't carve whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you only get the part by breaking the one thing. And if you only need like 1 or 2 of them, that's fine. But like for me, when I was trying to make my copper Blanganga sword, my super uber sword that I have, one of the things you need is 10 Blanganga Fang pluses. You needed 10 of them. You only get 1, maybe 2 if you're really lucky, per quest. And the only village Blanganga quest in high rank, you have to fight multiple of them.
Mm-hmm.
And breaking more than one of them's fangs don't make any difference. And so you have to fight through multiple of them for the chance to maybe get a single fang. 2 if you're really lucky. None if you're adequately lucky, which is what usually happened. And you have to do that over and over and over again. Maybe fight it 15 times and still only have 8 fangs. I I mean, that kind of farm is even worse, in my opinion, than trying to get a ruby or a gem or a or heavenly scale or something. It's that kind of stuff that's really like, oh my, oh.
Yep.
So I think it's really, I think overall, due to how quickly we're actually able to get the stuff that we got, I really do think that the grind overall is worth the reward that you get from it. We'll see if that remains to be the case in the coming games. But as far as Freedom Unite, I think the time that you put into it, it actually is worth it with what you get. And I don't really have too many complaints.
Yeah.
All right, so we're coming to the last one now. What's you guys' overall impression of Freedom Unite, or I guess Monster Hunter in general, since this is the inaugural discussion, based on everything else that you've ever played?
Well, growing up, my games were like Spyro and DDR and Crash Bandicoot, stuff like that. This is probably the most difficult game I have ever played in my entire life.
I believe it.
So easily.
It's definitely not my style of games that I like to play. So playing this definitely challenges you when you're not used to playing games like that. But it's not bad when you got friends.
Definitely.
Pain is always better with friends.
Playing together and then playing with you, Ron, who's, able to guide us, and any kind of question we might have, you have an answer, you find an answer, and you make the game so much more
bearable,
playable with much less difficulty. Yes, I mean literally bearable.
Yeah, I definitely would not have been able to figure out this stuff if Braun was not there to walk us through things.
You guys gonna make me blush.
Yeah, I would not have put the time and effort into it at all if you have not been here.
I'm one of these kinds of people that like to figure out why something is not working. And like in a game like this, where essentially your progression is 100% based on you, and people can talk about janky controls, and people can talk about bad hitboxes, and people can talk about all that stuff all day long. But at the end of the day, if you learn how to deal with that, you can do whatever you need to do. And like, I'm one of these people, and I use this example a little bit earlier. I've got a history of playing a bunch of JRPGs from Final Fantasy, Legend of Dragoon, Xenogears. I play Resident Evil, and I like the Assassin's Creed stuff. And I always tend to try to figure out ways that I can do things that seem like, or that make me feel like whatever it is that I'm playing as. The whole role playing part. I've done so many Final Fantasy challenges. Like I've done level 1 sphere grid challenges on Final Fantasy X before my PlayStation got wiped. I've done countless level 1 Final Fantasy VIII runs. I've done level 1 Final Fantasy IX runs. Kingdom Hearts, I've done this kind of stuff the most. Like almost every game I've played level 1, critical or proud mode, depending on what it is, going through the game just to see if I could. Because a lot of these games, when you play them as they're intended, you don't really learn the games. Because a lot of times there's nothing to learn. You just hit the button and you win, for the most part. I mean, yeah, there is some difficulty to be had, but any average person can beat Kingdom Hearts. I mean, all you got to do is just do what they tell you to do. Go here, fight these things, and then for the lack of a better term, I mean, it's easy. Unless you make it difficult. And then, like, for me, one of the final games that I played up into Kingdom Hearts 3 was Dream Drop Distance, in which I really wasn't that interested in the game itself. I just kind of wanted to get through it so I'd be caught up. And I went through that game so quickly and without any sort of guide or anything like that. I just went through it so fast that by the time I got to the final boss, I was, in my opinion, severely underleveled, and I probably didn't have any of the skills that I needed really. I don't even think I had once more second chance. So if you don't know what that is, that's basically a skill that keeps you from dying from one hit in Kingdom Hearts. And I don't even think I had those skills. So I flew to the end of that game and just beat my head against the bosses until I learned them and killed them. Because I was, that's just kind of how I play. If I'm playing something and I'm having issues, I'm going to figure it out and beat it because that's what I do.
Yeah, you're not the type of person that just gives up on things.
Yeah, and of course, me being that kind of person kind of disappointed me when I played Kingdom Hearts 3. Cosmic still hasn't played it yet, so I can't really talk much about it. But me being that kind of gamer really disappointed me when I played that game. But anyway, and all that time, I've played all these different challenges and done all these different things in all of these games, and nothing has captivated me and basically what's the word? Gripped me as much as Monster Hunter. Like nothing. Even though I've had decades and decades of experience with lots of different kinds of games, ever since we started playing Monster Hunter, or I started playing Monster Hunter, nothing has challenged me and pushed me as much as these games have. And there's just nothing that I can compare them to. And whenever I stop and want to play something, I sit down and I start to think about it, and it's like, I just want to play Monster Hunter. Like, I don't even want to play this. Like, ever since we started, lately, I've got a bunch of Assassin's Creed games that I love to play. But then, like, I played them for a little while, but then lately now I haven't opened one up in a while because I just want to play Monster Hunter. And there's nothing, in my opinion, that really compares to what the game makes you feel regarding you're the one that overcomes the monster. It's like, a lot of these games that I'm talking about, your character over the course of the game becomes stronger himself. And in a game like Monster Hunter, your character, whether you're G rank or low rank, is still just as weak as they've ever been. Even with, and I use this analogy, and I completely believe this. If you started somebody in Freedom Unite with all of the weapons and all of the equipment from G rank, and they're brand new hunter, and you have them play this whole game with G rank, I honestly believe that even with all that equipment, there's only a certain point they'll get to before they'll get slapped around and can't progress. Because the gear is only one part of the game. And yeah, Tigrex may not hit them as hard, but I still cart to a low-rank Tigrex in G-rank equipment if I don't pay attention. So I firmly believe that in a game like Monster Hunter, you are the one that levels up. Your character is just as strong as you are. And it's really something that I cling to, because there's nothing else like it. I mean, before Monster Hunter, there was nothing like Monster Hunter. And it's, for me, I mean, there really isn't anything to compare it to. And it just grips me.
I agree.
Has anybody got
Yeah,
anybody got any closing thoughts before we clear off of here?
I definitely, the journey of this game has been fun, but like, I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to be done with this game, because like the aggravation, I feel like would be a lot less in the next game. But I'm sure the next game will still have its challenges for me, because I know that there's certain things in the next game that I'm not looking forward to. But I'm sure it'll be a lot easier on me to get done with FU.
Well, one thing to think about is when we move on to the next game, you'll be retaining everything that you learned about this game moving into that game. And while
Yeah, it's like
most of the
already leveled up
monsters,
some.
yeah, most of the monsters will be different because there's only like 4 returning monsters. The concepts that was taught to everybody in Freedom Unite will still carry over into that game.
Well, I'm talking about like the control, like the button little switch on there that aggravates me. The next game is the part where we have to fight monsters under the water, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that I hate. I hate fighting monsters under the water. It's just give me some land, okay?
Give me some
land.
We
So
don't belong in the water. What are
no,
you
we
doing?
don't. If I had gills,
I don't
I'm
know.
just kidding.
I like it. I've never had any issue. But that's just me. Okay. Well, this I guess this concludes our first post-game discussion. Next time when we're doing the next game, yeah.
I tell you what, that plesio's not gonna be able to hide from me when I start swimming in the water.
Oh no. What's that? You jumping in the water? All right. I'll come to you.
All right, wait for me.
Right. Grab onto his tail and follow him in. All right. Well, thank you guys for hanging out with us. We'll be back after we finish the next game in 3 years. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.